Miko Zilla. Miko Zilla. Hello, welcome back to my channel and the third annual installment of Miko's top 10 albums of the year. This year, of course, we are talking about albums that came out this past year in 2022. It was kind of an interesting year for music. A lot of mainstream artists came out with albums this year, but there wasn't any like new faces on the scene that I really got into this year. Not a lot of like indie music that really caught my eye. So if there's an album that you love that's not on this list that came out in 2023, please leave me a comment and let me know. Always on the lookout for new music to listen to. Just a reminder that these rankings are in chronological order. So this is my personal top 10 and the list is based on when the albums came out. This is the third year I've done this, so if you're interested in watching my top 10 favorite albums from 2020 and 2021, I will leave the links up here and in the description as well. You can also watch my other commentary videos at the playlist, which will also have a link in the description. Without any further ado, we will jump right into it. Okay, we are getting right... 6 red flags. We are getting right into it. The first album on my top 10 list for 2023 is none other than Crash by Charli XCX. This album came out on March 18th, and this was very much like the first half of my year was a lot of Charli XCX. This album got me into her on a deeper level, because I've always liked some of her songs, but I've never been like a huge fan listening to the whole discog or anything until Crash came out. Anyway, Crash itself is a little bit more standard pop rather than the hyperpop she's known for. There is a lot of hyperpop elements in there as well, but it's a little more accessible to the average listener. The songs are well written, they're so catchy, I love singing along, dancing to them. It's everything that you could ask for in a pop album. Some of my favorite songs from this album would be New Shapes, Yuck, Beg For You, Baby, and Twice, but my favorite song from the album has got to be Used To Know Me. It is just such a fun song. I love dancing to it. I love the music video. It's a good time overall. So if you haven't heard Crash, go listen to it. I also really love the album cover. That might be my favorite album cover from this year. Next on my list, and we're jumping from March all the way into May now, on May 13th, when Dance Fever by Florence and the Machine was released. It took me a little while to really get into this album, but the first time I ever listened to it was a pretty magical experience. I was on a picnic with my husband and I decided to put the album on because it had been out for a while and still hadn't heard it. So it was just us having a good time, vibing out. It was absolutely magical, gorgeous day. Anyway, as we've come to expect from Florence and the Machine, she has delivered yet again an ethereal, powerful album, and it is just so cohesive too. I had a hard time picking out my favorite songs from this album because I'll usually only listen to it front to back all the way through, and that would definitely be my recommendation as far as listening to this. But if you don't have the time, my favorite songs are Choreomania, Cassandra, Dream Girl Evil, and Free. But my absolute favorite song from the album has got to be Daffodil. It is such a powerful song and it's sort of like the highlight of the album for me. It really culminates all the darkness that's in there. This entire album is a little bit dark for Florence, but it's beautiful, it's profound, it's stunning, and I really think that Daffodil really encompasses all those elements. Next up, we are moving along to May 20th, which is when Harry Styles released Harry's House. Now, don't come for me. I don't believe in guilty pleasures, and I genuinely do enjoy Harry Styles music. I've never been like the biggest Harry Styles fan, but I started listening to him when Fine Line first came out and got a little bit more into it. I really have come to appreciate Harry as an artist and like the way he expresses himself through fashion, etc. This album was super unique, especially for a male pop artist in 2023. I thought that it was sonically ambitious, and I thought that the vocals were excellent as well. Maybe what's lacking for me from this album, or just like Harry Styles music in general, is the lyricism isn't always like my favorite lyrics, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying the music and the sonic quality of what he puts out there. It reminds me of retrofuturism a little bit. Some of my favorite songs from this album would be Satellite, Music for a Sushi Restaurant, As It Was, and Matilda. I do fear that Music for a Sushi Restaurant and As It Was are both victims to the curse of overplayed music, so I don't know how well they're gonna hold up with being in like commercials and everything like that. And my favorite song off the album is Keep Driving, because when I first listened to this album in its entirety, I was on a road trip to Connecticut to visit my friend and go to New York City Pride, which if you haven't seen that video, here it is. So that song just makes me think of that time and like how much fun we had. Moving right along to June 3rd, which is when one of my favorite artists, Purity Ring, released their album Graves. I actually think this might just be an EP because it's pretty short. Purity Ring, if you don't know, is this very ethereal, like almost witchy artist. They're on the same label as Grimes, so it's a little bit of similarity there. My favorite thing about Purity Ring songs is how the background instrumentals are always like shifting to and fro the singer's vocals, and it almost gives me the image of like waves coming in and out of the shore, or if you ever seen like a dog running away from a wave at the beach but then following it back out to sea. So there's a little bit of like this sort of feeling going on. Anyway, they're back at it and better than ever. I really love this entire project, but some of my favorite songs from this album would include Unlucky, So Shy, and Nothing's Fine. But my absolute favorite song on this album is called Water Song. I love the lyrics, I love where it takes me in my mind, and it's just a really fun song to listen to. Also in 2023, Purity Ring had their 10-year anniversary of the album Shrines, and they did a re-release called Shrines X that included some old demos from that era, so that was something else fun that they did in 2023. Moving on to the next album on the list though, we are talking about July 15th, which is when Lizzo released her latest album, Special. I am a huge fan of Lizzo. I love everything she does. I think she's just a phenomenal person and somebody that really deserves the fame that they have, and I love what she's doing with her platform. All that being said, this album is full of bops. Lizzo never disappoints. She is a music nerd at heart, and she will always come through for the other music nerds like me. Some of my favorite songs from the album were the title track Special, Girls, The Sign, and of course the international smash hit About Damn Time. However, my favorite song on the album is Everybody's Gay. It's such a fun, modern, like, disco track, and I'm obsessed. So, love you, Lizzo. You crushed it this year, girl. You are so special. We are moving on to July 29th, which some of you may be able to guess is when Beyoncé released Renaissance. I think it's Renaissance Act 1. Not really up to speed on what's going on with that. Needless to say, Beyoncé is in a league entirely of her own. Ever since her self-titled album, she has just been untouchable, unbreakable, flawless, perfection, a living work of art. I struggle to find the words. She has elevated herself beyond any of her contemporaries, and Renaissance is just the latest example of her doing that. Should be listened to front to back. No skips at all, but if you just need a couple recommendations as an entry point, my favorite songs are Energy, Thick, Alien Superstar, and Virgo's Groove. But the best song on the album to me is Break My Soul. This song was on a repeat at New York City Pride, and it will always make me think of that. Honestly, all summer was just me listening to that song. It was so good. Next up, we will be talking about one of 2 artists to make my top 10 albums of the year list, not once, not twice, but 3 years in a row. And that, of course, is Megan Thee Stallion, who released her album Traumazine on August 12th. This album, bangers all the way through. Megan Thee Stallion can do no wrong in my eyes. I love her. I want to send her love for all the shit she went through over the past year, and I really commend her on staying so strong and just continuing to put out amazing work amidst all of the legal struggles and the physical struggles and the actual trauma that she's been through in the past couple years. And she's still out here. She's still creating art, and she's still being a good role model, and I just really commend her for that. Points being, the songs on this album gave me like old school hip-hop vibes, old school R&B vibes, and it was still very modern and fresh. Some of my favorite songs from this album, it's so hard to pick, but Budget, NDA, Plan B, Pressurelicious, Not Nice, and Her. But my favorite song off the album is actually Scary featuring Rico Nasty. That song I listened to non-stop from when this album came out till well after Halloween, and I still listen to it all the time. So good, so good. Rico Nasty, amazing. Got a little bit more into her this year. So good. Moving right along to September 16th, we are talking about Rina Sawayama's sophomore album, Hold the Girl. This album I look forward to for so long because I became a huge fan of Rina Sawayama when her debut album came out a couple years back. I did talk about it in my top 10 list from 2020. Rina has really like blossomed as an artist and kind of figured out like where she fits in to the scene and what direction she wants to go. The music videos for this project have been really fun. The music is deep, it's meaningful, and it's also really fun at times. I do tend to steer closer to like the more dancey pop songs on this album. Some of my favorites are Frankenstein, Hold the Girl, the title track, This Hell, and Your Age. But my ultimate top favorite song from this album is called Imagining. It's a very high energy, intense song, very much like hyper pop in a lot of ways, and just intense. You don't really see a lot of like dancey songs with this kind of intensity. That's why I really like it, because I just think it's a super unique song. We are again moving on. We are all the way into October now, which is when we will be talking about the second artist that has been on my top 10 albums of the year list, not once, not twice, but every single year thus far. And that, of course, is Willow, who released her album Coping Mechanism on October 7th. Willow, Miss Willow. Miss Willow. I started out the year being a little bit upset with her, if I'm being honest, because she dropped out of the Happier Than Ever World Tour, of which I was gonna see her and Billie in the same night or whatever. But I did get to see in her place Dora Jar, who's become another like really good artist in my eyes, and I'm super excited to see what she does next. Anyway, by the time October rolled around, I was over it. Kind of, but when Willow's album Coping Mechanism came out, I had no choice but to drop everything and just listen to it. This album is so amazing. It's fast-paced. It's heavier than her previous album, Lately I Feel Everything. That one was a little bit more pop-punk, and this is a little bit more on the punk side. Also, it gives a little bit of ska at times. A lot of the tracks have really fast-paced drums, and they'll switch up the pattern and the tempo mid-song really quickly, and that just reminds me of like punk ska. Willow pulled a lot of really strong influences. She delivered amazing performances on this all the way around, and some of the live performances I've seen her doing of these songs are just incredible. The way that she's able to switch from her head voice to her chest voice to a scream and back again effortlessly is amazing, and it's just another reason I really wish I had gotten to see her perform last February. That being said, this album is amazing, no skips whatsoever. My favorite songs from the album would include Why, Hover Like a Goddess, Falling Endlessly, Maybe It's My Fault, and Curious Furious. But my absolute favorite song from this album is Split. That song is just a little bit more down-tempo, a little bit more mellow until it picks way back up. It has an interesting momentum and placement on the album, and it's always one I love to sing along to and pay attention to when it comes on. Before I talk about the 10th and final album on the top albums of 2022 list, as always, I will list some honorable mentions for you guys, which are just albums that I didn't listen to as much as the other ones on this list, but were also really good. These would include SOS by SZA, which came out on December 9th, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar, released May 13th, Demi Lovato, Holy Fuck, August 19th, and Avril Lavigne, Love Sucks, February 25th. Okay, and the final album on the list, Dirt Femme by Tove Lo, which was released on October 14th. This album, phenom. I love Tove Lo very much. She is one of my favorite artists and has been for quite a while. This album maybe suffered a little bit from me just because so many of the songs on it and so many of the songs I like came out as singles leading up to the album. So by the time it came out, I had already heard most of it and wasn't as interested. Then as I started listening to the album in its entirety, I understood how the songs all meshed together and why she did it the way she did it. Tove always gives us amazing music videos. The No One Dies From Love video has got to be like one of the best music videos in history. There's so much heartbreak and passion and love for her fans in this project. It's just really wonderful and I can't wait to own this on vinyl. I still don't. Some of my favorite songs from the album would include Pineapple Slice, To Die For, No One Dies From Love, Call On Me, Suburbia, and How Long, which was featured in the Euphoria Season 2 soundtrack. However, my absolute favorite song on this album is A Kick in the Head. I needed that song like a kick in the head on this album because it is just so funky. That bass riff that pretty much plays throughout the whole thing will not escape my head. It is so good. It's just a really fun, funky dance song. Tove always delivers the most amazing like dance pop. Alright, so that was it, my top 10 favorite albums that came out in 2022. Did you agree with my choices? Did you disagree? Let me know in the comments what your favorite albums of the year were. I hope your 2023 is off to a great start so far. I'm really looking forward to this year and the new music to come out of it. Particularly, I'm so excited for Paramore's new album, This Is Why, which is coming out on February 10th. It might already be out by the time I get this video out. I'm extra late this year, I'm so sorry. I'm also really excited for Miley Cyrus's new album, Endless Summer Vacation, which is coming out on March 10th. Those are the only ones I have a solid date for, but like, who else is releasing albums this year? Let me know. I'm looking forward to maybe Nico's debut album. I may be looking forward to a new Billie Eilish music. I don't know, only time will tell. But if you know about anything, leave it in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like these. And if you really like me, you can follow me outside of YouTube on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All the links are below for everything. Alright, well that's it for me today, you guys. I gotta go bail my cat out of jail, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye! 2020 and 2020. How many of these have I done?